All right, I'm live. Boy, what a morning. What a morning. Got a great big dump of snow, and my plow truck is a big rust bucket. So I had to buy myself a snow blower. And yeah, I forgot how fun it is to have the snow blowing back directly in your face. Yeah. Yeah, it was an eventful morning, but all is good. Not to mention, I don't know, seem to feel a little under the weather, folks, but everything's all good. It's all good. We're gonna, like I say, this is something I've wanted to get back to and revisit for a while for a multitude of reasons. And one in particular, I was looking back through some of my live streams as I covered this over the years, during the whole, like the last, what was it, almost, I guess, going on 4 years now with the whole COVID thing. But yeah, I covered this story because it started coming out back in around or just before around that time. And it was just like the bank balance. It's like, okay, so the media's reporting on this stuff, but it's like you report on it and then you just forget about it. Like, this is kind of a big deal. It's kind of a big deal. But anyways, like I say, the quality of my live streams, and I think a lot of that at the time was pre-Starlink. So yeah, my quality was shit, glitchy. The audio wasn't lined up with the video in a couple of them. And so I was like, let's just revisit this, not just for the sake of it deserves to be revisited anyways, right? But to get all this on record and hopefully in a live stream that's in much better quality. Although here I went and said something. So anyway, before we get into it, and I guess while we're letting waiting for a few more people to join the live stream, I was just scrolling through the Twitter feed, and shout out Elon and anyone at X there. I mean, it's just so great to have that platform. I mean, I know it costs a lot, Elon. It's a lot of change to plop down for freedom of speech, but I, for one, really thank you for it. But yeah, I saw another one of these here, Klaus Schwab. Hey, he fits the look, the way he talks, everything about this guy is just like if you want to invent an evil villain type, right, character, it's like, yeah, the guy fits the bill to a T. Friggin' wild, man. It was just, like I say, just before I get into this stuff, I just wanted to play this. So let me bring it on here. All right. Okay, let me just make sure that that's on the screen there now. Yeah. Oh, well, that reminds me, actually, after I do that, I'm going to have to repost my live stream. I still don't know how people get notified of my live streams on X. I'm getting a few viewers over there, and I think mostly it's because people just happen to stumble on it when they're scrolling through the feed, and if they're following my channel more or less. But I don't know how to get the message out other than tweeting or posting to let people know. But anyways, like I said, listen to Schwab, boy. We libertarians, we seem to be keeping a lot of these central planning elitists, little petty tyrants up at night, right? And good, rightfully so. Oh yeah, I got to bring this down here. Okay, let me put it in full screen.
You have this anti-system movement. What we are seeing is a revolution against the system. So fixing the present system is not enough. Now, there is, of course, an anti-system, which is called libertarianism, which means to tear down everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. You Google libertarianism or libertarian. Yeah, that's the first part of the description in any definition, right? Is it's meant to tear things down. What is this, Klaus Schwab? What material, what source are you referencing where libertarianism means to tear things down? Actually, tell you the truth, seems like a Herculean waste of fucking time to people who are all about efficiencies and having an entrepreneurial mind and trying to break free from some of the establishment, the status quo. No, why waste time tearing shit down, right? Like, I mean, Elon is a perfect example of a libertarian. Not looking to tear shit down, is he? No, he's just building anew or alongside, right? Or building competition, right? That's what genuine libertarians, well, first and foremost, it's about the fact that, yeah, self-ownership. Nobody gets to claim ownership of me, right? Which should be self-evident, right? Slavery, that's a bad thing. And property rights, which means anything I produce or create, invent, any of that stuff, if it's by the fruits of my labor or from my wealth or anything that I've created or used as a means to that end, right? That's mine. Nobody gets to claim ownership of my property, right? And for anyone to suggest otherwise, well, once again, you're advocating for slavery. So that's kind of a bad thing. And then, of course, the last but certainly not the least most important principle of libertarian philosophy or thought is, the non-aggression principle, right? So no, not looking to tear things down, just, little basic rules that we all should have learned when we were kids. Don't hit first, don't take people's stuff, that kind of stuff, right? The golden rule kind of mentality. But, Klaus Schwab, like, oh, well, that wouldn't sell the narrative if you said that. That's kind of right? No, you got to sensationalize them libertarians. Anyways, but that old adage, right? Is there's no such thing as bad publicity. So continue on with your rhetoric there, Klaus, right? So because I'm sure more and more people like, oh, libertarians. Well, maybe I should look up what these people are all about or look into this libertarianism, right? And then they'll be like, wait a minute, that sounds pretty goddamn reasonable as far as I'm concerned. And in particular, in comparison and contrast to the kind of shit that you push for, right, Klaus? Anyways. But well, let me bring this back on or back off there. But oh, here, that's what I was going to do too. I'm going to check out. And like I say, folks, sorry if I might do a little bit of sniffling here. I'm going to try to keep it to a minimum. But I seem to have come down with something. Something. And no, doesn't that be the COVID, right? No, there's such thing as flus and colds still, right? They do still exist, right? As they have the entirety of my life. I'm sure they will continue on. Anyways, but let me just go to my profile and repost this. Let people know that I'm alive, baby. Okay, so I'm live. Oh, by the way, I there was another lady, I believe, whatever. But anyways, someone that I had interacted with, engaged with on X. I'm hoping that this person will agree to have a conversation with me. Seems like someone that would be on the opposite end of things. Well, I mean, especially if you fall for the whole left-right thing, but at least someone that is apprehensive towards, libertarians and stuff. And this is the thing with libertarians, and I've pointed in the past, is we're all individuals. So just like I said to this person is, don't judge people based on the labels they place on themselves, based on, what they actually bring to the table, right? Because that's the thing. There's no such thing as you can't just say, oh, I'm libertarian, therefore I'm holier than thou. No, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I mean, there's some subtle meanings to it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be the kind of person that this other person might want to interact or engage with. But once again, at the end of the day, we're all humans, first and foremost. We're all individuals. So my whole thing that I've been, basically the way I've always lived is, I treat you with dignity and respect from the minute I meet you, until you give me reason not to. I hear a sled, and it sounds like it's coming in my yard. Sounds like my son might be here, so a little bad time on that, because I love the sound of a sled in the wintertime. But anyways, let me just continue on here. Okay. So I shared this. It's shared on my Facebook. So this is live streaming on X, and it's also being live streamed to my Rumble channel as well as my YouTube channel. All right, now let's get into this, because there's the first couple things that I wanted to cover are a couple of the videos, because the videos I find are, and I mean, like I was saying earlier, even when you talk about the reporting and the CBC, CTV, Global, National Post, they all covered the bank bailouts that happened years and years ago, but then it was just kind of like swept on the rug and never revisited again. So it's like, for the people that like myself who were paying attention, it's like, well, be nice to get some more to this story, right? But never really happened. And I suppose this may very well end up, I don't know, maybe the investigation is still ongoing. Although you would think after these years, some kind of an update, something, what's going on, right? Because as you'll see, I'm going to be using CBC News, right? So it's like they can't pretend that this didn't happen. They fucking reported on it, right? So, right, what are you going to do? Call me a conspiracy theorist for point out your own reporting, right? Anyway, so like I said, let me maximize this. Wait, no, actually, I gotta add it into the stream first. That would come in handy. Okay, so let me just share the screen here. Is this the, yeah, this is the first one that I wanted to play. Let me put it full screen and just go with it here. Let's see.
It's suspicious, it's alarming, it's frightening, it's perhaps life-threatening.
Amir Adaran is both a legal and medical expert who says Ottawa needs to explain what happened.
There's no reason for Ottawa to be secretive about this. We already know that they've sent Ebola virus to China and that they're working with the Chinese military scientists. This is known. What else are they hiding?
CBC News has learned that months before being escorted out of Canada's highest security microbiology lab, federal scientist Jianguo Chu sent 30 vials of 15 different strains of Ebola and Hennepin virus to Wuhan, China. Coronavirus was not a part of that shipment. Access to information documents show the head of the lab in Winnipeg and his bosses in Ottawa had questions, asking in emails where the package was going, what was inside, and if it had the proper paperwork. The Public Health Agency of Canada says this shipment is not connected to the ongoing RCMP and internal investigation, but it won't say what is.
One of the leading reasons.
So, I mean, first and foremost, what is that? Now, I don't want to make baseless accusations, but if it had nothing to do with the RCMP investigation, well, I guess it's just further anecdotal evidence or facts pertaining to the case to I don't know, maybe to get people at least to question some of these things. But at the very least, I mean, we're already hearing so far. And like I say, this was reported on. Let me get you the date for these, actually. Well, I'll wait till I'm done, actually, because, yeah, I'll have to minimize. Although I can do it now, right? Yeah, this was from. So this was from June 14th, 2020, folks, 2020. So you got to remember, it was right around December or January that the first bunch of cases, started coming to the shores, right? So just, months later, they're talking about this stuff. This is during, the initial stages of the COVID-19 outbreak. So kind of a big deal, right? And the fact that, they're admitting that, there is a connection at bare minimum. So far from what we're hearing, there is a connection between the Winnipeg lab, Canada's only level 4 lab, right, that deals with these deadly or contagious viruses or pathogens. So, and we know that COVID originated in Wuhan. We also know that more and more evidence has mounted and questions have arisen, and people are definitely interested in the fact that, maybe it was a lab leak, right? I mean, you don't even have to get into the conspiracy shit in terms of, it's a bioweapon. Although, once again, I don't know. You don't know. Nobody actually, well, I'm sure somebody in the world might know, but we don't know because we aren't privy to that kind of information to be able to have that kind of knowledge. But bare minimally, right? Mistakes happen. And of course, that's another thing I covered in my past streams. In one live stream in particular, where they even admitted, I don't know if it was a McLean's article, it was a pretty long article anyways, and all that stuff is going to be linked in the description of this live stream. But where they admitted that mistakes are made and a virus had, contaminated one of the people that worked there or something and whatever. I forget the entire story and I don't want to butcher it, but yeah, mistakes happen. Shit happens, especially when you're talking about dealing with, highly contagious viruses. Anyway, so let me just get back into this here. There's just a minute or so left here, folks. Just a minute or so left.
Reasons that China might want to have a large catalog of Ebola genetic material is because they're doing what's called gain-of-function experiments. And what that means are experiments that make the virus more dangerous or more deadly. It's a sort of research that we don't do in Canada, that is frowned upon in most parts of the world, and I'm afraid we may just have helped them.
This former diplomat says the vacuum of information.
So, I mean, there you go again, right? Think about it. So the guy's saying, and we've already heard, from the likes of, especially in particular, Rand Paul holding Fauci down there in the United States to account, holding his feet to the fire. But we're all very much well aware, or those of us who pay attention to this stuff, that gain-of-function research, not only is it real, but it's something that's been taking place. And like this gentleman pointed out, it's something to basically, figure out how to make these things possibly has the potential of making them even more deadly, or you're studying the gain of function. So once again, the fact that this happened to coincide with the time that COVID-19, jumped into our lives, right? I mean, these are things that like we need to be able to put these, connect these things, or at least try to figure out if there is a genuine connection. And it sure as hell seems that way based on just this. I mean, we're only a minute 37. And like I say, the amount of stuff that I'm going to bring to the table today, I mean, it's basically, it should almost be unquestionable at this point that there needs to be, further inquiry as to what the hell happened, what took place. You got to remember, this had a profound effect on billions of people around the world, right? Massively so.
Is a concern.
Is this a serious problem, a minor problem, an administrative oversight, something more sinister? There's also a danger if you don't provide information that people will jump always to the worst conclusion.
No one from the lab, from Health Canada, or the Public Health Agency of Canada would comment.
And that would only be natural. That would people would want to jump to conclusions, and which is why these so-called conspiracy theories actually arise. Yes, the proper thing to do is to be open and transparent and properly inform the people. Then you alleviate most concerns or most possibilities of these ridiculous conspiracy theories that even myself, and some of them could be applicable, because that's the one thing I will admit. What is deemed conspiracy theory yesterday has been so many times turned out to be absolute fact tomorrow, right? So, but at the very least, I do find it somewhat counterproductive when people are kind of going off on these tangents that possibly and probably does turn people away from it, right? Because of the rhetoric, and especially the nonsense that the establishment media goes on and saying, calling everybody conspiracy theorists, right? I mean, I'm sure people have even labeled me that. But of course, I would like to know where they would come up with that, considering the fact that I typically deal with information that's brought to us or brought to light by the establishment hacks, or even those in the alternative media, because it's not like it's just the establishment media personalities that cover this story. There's alternative media outlets as well. But I mean, they covered it, right? So of course, people want to know. People want to know the answers to these kinds of profound things that have such a massive effect on their lives and their economic bottom lines, their business. I mean, the relationships with their aging and elderly parents or grandparents. I mean, there's just so many implications and detrimental things that took place, during that 3+ years of the COVID outbreak. I mean, we all know, right? We all know. And I know some people just kind of want to move on, but hey, no, like I said, you cannot allow this kind of stuff just to like, okay, well, at least it's over with now. Let's just move on. Well, I mean, some people can, but that's not me. No, I want to get to the bottom of this. And I hope that the RCMP, right? Jeez. Not holding out a whole lot of hope there, to be honest with you folks, but I'm hoping at least there's somebody in these institutions or in government somewhere, the needle in the haystack, the one-off, right? The outlier, the exception to the norm, who will at least, try to dig down and get us some answers. I mean, CBC has what, $1.5 billion a year? Put some of that money to good use and get Canadians the answer to what the hell is going on or what took place, right? Let's get some answers
on this story, and we've never been able to reach Jiango Chu. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Anyways, I guess before I continue on, I do want to ask, just to make sure, right? Just to make sure, I want to ask you folks, if someone would mind answering me down in the chat, is, the audio for not just me, is it decent enough? And is the audio when I'm putting it on the YouTube video, is everything coming across clear? Because I really need this stuff to be clear. Hey, what's going on, Corey W? Good afternoon to you, and thank you for joining the stream. Really appreciate that. What's this here? Liquid Gal, morning, afternoon, happy new year to you. Oh, thank you very much, Liquid Gal, and morning, afternoon to you, depending on where you are at in this fine country, or at least what used to be, or has the potential to be, anyways, right? Anyways, Russell McNeil, hey, from Cape Breton. Yes, sir, Cape Breton, bye. Nova Scotia, long time no see. Well, thank you for joining the stream as well, Russell McNeil, and yeah, Kate Breton, North Sydney. Now, I've only, obviously been there a couple of times when I drove truck for Sunbury Transport, and went over to the Rock, over to Newfoundland there. So you go up to North Sydney and you jump on the ferry. Well, both times I went on the western side of it, so that would be Port of Basque, right? Gone through the Wreck House a couple times. Wow, what a place that is. But yeah, Cape Breton, pretty wild. As you're going down, before you get to where you get on the ferry, you got to go down a real, and this, I'm sure this gentleman, Russell's well aware of what I'm talking about. But yeah, you go down a pretty steep hill. I forget what exactly the percentage of the grade is. And then at the bottom, it's a sharp 90-degree turn. So yeah, test your brakes, right? But yeah, it's a beautiful part of the province, actually, Cape Breton. Really nice spot. So yeah, anyways, like I say, thank you for joining the stream. Corey, the government scuttled the nation, 2020, and haven't looked back. They hope everyone forgets the last 3 years. It sure seems that way, doesn't it? Right? Because for something that had such a profound effect on all of our lives, I mean, how is it that they're not chomping on the bit? If your thing, like, think about it. If your thing is your occupation, the thing that you chose to go into, right, that drives you is journalism or being a reporter. I mean, like, come on, like this is the epitome of where you could achieve some amount of notoriety or infamy or success if you could, do your part to get to the bottom of this story. That, to me, like I say, it's like being I'm trying to think of something. It's like being a hockey player, right? What's the greatest accomplishment you could achieve especially in Canadian or American term or context, is to win the Stanley Cup. Well, this would be akin to winning the Stanley Cup for a journalist to get, to the bottom of this story. And yeah, so for those of you who are out there, hopefully, some of you will put the fire under your ass and get back to work to figure out what the hell is going on. And, maybe poke and prod at the RCMP, see what the hell they've learned since then, right? Or even if they're going to say they haven't learned anything, can we at least find that out? Right? Some questions need to be asked. But yeah, you're right on there, Corey. They terminated the outliers for no poison injection. Yeah, right. 5x5. Now I get that now. See, I didn't know what the hell that meant before, but I totally get it. And thanks, Corey. We really appreciate that. Glad to know everything's turning out good. Oh, and same with you, Liquid Gal. That's 5x5. Oh, I can't believe I was so out of touch that I don't know what the hell that means. Didn't know what the hell that means, but I do now. And I really appreciate you folks for the feedback. Anyway, so I'm going to get to this next video. Oh, let me close this first one out, actually, because I got a lot of stuff up on my screen, and it's definitely using up a lot of my bandwidth here. So let me bring this next one on. Oh, try not to do too much sniffling there, folks. Sorry about that. Okay. Here we go. So this is another one. And this too, once again, covered by CBC News. I've got articles as well, but this is in video form. So let's use the video, right?
For months, opposition MPs have been demanding answers about these scientists and their Chinese students, escorted out of the country's only Level 4 lab in Winnipeg amidst an internal review and RCMP investigation.
When is the government going to start being accountable to this House of Commons and to answer the questions?
And they have a lot of them, about Dr. Jiango Chu's travel to Wuhan, China, where she was training staff and developing operating procedures at the new Level 4 lab there. As well, a shipment of viruses, including Ebola, that she sent to the Wuhan lab in 2019.
I'll ask the Prime Minister, why are they covering up information about scientists, about policies between our top secret Winnipeg lab and the Wuhan Institute of Virology?
But two former colleagues of Chu's are speaking out, saying all the speculation is wrong.
From her own words to me, she told me, like, this is a misunderstanding, and I don't know why, I was walked out of the building.
Gary Kobinger has been watching all of this with dismay and disbelief from his lab at Laval University. He was Chu's boss in Winnipeg. Together, they developed an Ebola vaccine that saved lives and won international praise.
This work can't be done without teamwork.
She's a very ethical person. She was a very loyal person at the time she was there.
Kobinger believes this all started over an intellectual property question. He says,
now let me just point this out, right? I just have to, just because, you know, that's what I do. You got to push back against this kind of narrative, because if you don't at least hear that kind of pushback, you know, people are easy enough to think, well, yeah, maybe he's right, maybe she's trustworthy. I mean, think about it. You know, whether you were actively being deceptive, right? Or like I say, maybe this could have even just been an accident. Who's to say? But even if there was anything nefarious taking place, right? The people that are doing these things, I mean, obviously to be chosen, you know, maybe to be an operative, I'm not even suggesting that's the case, but if someone were to be chosen to be an operative in any way for the Chinese government or the Chinese military, well, wouldn't you want to pick someone that could, at the very least, bare minimum, convince their peers that they're not doing that? Right? What the fuck? I mean, I suppose bare minimum of competency in terms of, like, even spies, right? We know there's such thing as genuine spies, whether they're Russian spies or Chinese spies or whatever. Fuck, they're spies in their own goddamn country. I think, you know, 101 to be a spy is you got to be good at deceiving people. Like, hello. Anyways, well, I just had to point that out. Once again, this is not to suggest that I know anything about this woman, but the way this is being set up in some way, right? Or the way that the people that they're interviewing, because you got to think about it. When CBC is choosing to interview people, there's, you know, you could get people that maybe offer a perspective that would cause you even more heightened anxiety in terms of what's going on, maybe hype up or whip up even more fear. This is being presented in a way more or less as to alleviate your fears, but at the same time, at least reporting on it, right? And that's the thing with the bank balance, once again, is, you know, they have to, I suppose, because if you went back and you're like, okay, nobody ever reported on that, you know, that would be such a major fail, right? And it'd be, or not just a fail, but it'd be lying by omission, right? So I firmly believe that the legal class, or the people that you know run the legal portion of these media organizations, is like, well, yeah, you kind of got to report on it, right? Right? That bare minimum, we got to report on it. And like I say, I've said that in so many other areas, even in the past. Well, even CBC had to report on the Menzies thing the other day, right? Because, well, it was like, they probably wouldn't have if it wasn't for the fact that the video got millions and millions of views, and basically all over the world, people were talking about it. So they basically had no choice at that point. So they did cover it, but do you think they really wanted to, right? Once again. Anyways, let me just play a little bit more here.
someone flagged Chu's trips to the Wuhan lab, concerned she was sharing proprietary information about biosafety protocols.
Sharing this, is it intellectual property? Really? Are you?
So even that right there, if she's sharing information, and once again, you'll hear as this is played out, like you're talking about, you know, people who are active members of the Chinese military or the Chinese Communist Party that are somewhat involved in this as well. So, right? Anyways, let me play a little more.
Are you breaching the intellectual property because you're saying, well, you know, on our side, the way we decontaminate this material is A, B, C, D. How do you do it on your side?
The Public Health Agency was also surprised to find Chu listed on 2 patents filed by Chinese agencies. The Winnipeg lab was not named, which means Canada would have a hard time getting royalties associated with any potential.
So, I mean, think about that. This person even applied for patents or Chinese. It was something to do with the Chinese government and applying for patents for these things. And once again, now, like I say, we're getting some information, but it's so loose and not put together well enough to actually paint the full picture in our minds, which is why we need to get more information and learn more about this very profound story.
Sales of the technology.
But is that enough to launch an RCMP investigation, strip the scientists of their security clearances, and ultimately fire them?
At NML? Yes, I would say. Knee-jerk reactions are what NML are famous for, especially with staff.
We're not identifying this former scientist of the National Microbiology Lab. He fears retribution from the Public Health Agency for speaking with us. Someone else is reading his words.
NML, they have a lot of problems they're trying to cover up.
There are questions about at least one of Chu's students and how he got
Here we go.
inside the lab. Fai Hu Yan has affiliations to a research arm of the People's Liberation Army of China.
So this person has connections to the research arm of the Communist Party of China, the military wing of that organization, right? Like, holy fuck, right? Once again, that's big news right there. That's huge. And once again, it should, if Canadians, or if enough Canadians were actually privy to this information, which I've been trying for years to get this information out. Unfortunately, I have a small channel. I don't know if it's suppressed or what the reasoning or the cause behind it is, but I just can't seem to get any traction from a lot of people. And like I said, I've been one of the very, very few. And once again, the evidence is right there, right? Whether it was in poor quality or not, but the evidence of my videos and my live streams over that time frame, it's all there. I've been talking about this stuff and reporting on this stuff and trying to get this information out. Basically, it's just fallen mostly on deaf ears. It just doesn't seem like, especially because now we got alternative media. Now, I will say True North covered this to a degree. And one of the articles where they did cover this is going to be linked in the description of the video as well. But once again, there needs to be some real boots on the ground type of reporting, and maybe even traveling to places like China or making connections with some Chinese officials if possible. Or like I said, there's got to be some more work being done to find out or get to the bottom of this very, very strange, curious, and disturbing story.
This could be something that fell through the cracks without question.
One of those cracks, he says, shows a fault in the security clearance protocol. To fast-track lab access and avoid deep background checks, someone can apply for what's called reliability status instead of secret or top-secret clearance. Sources tell CBC News in some cases involving Chu students, limitations were placed on even that reliability access, limitations which were sometimes ignored.
I've worked at NML long enough that you see people.
So, once again, right there, they're admitting that you don't even have to have what you would think is like maximum security clearance or, top secret clearance. You could be even just a student without and as they pointed out here, right? And even those protocols were loose and not completely followed. So basically, to me, from what the information I've heard so far, it would not be that difficult, right, for an operative from China, from the Chinese military or the Communist Party of China to, get into this institution and, maybe take some sample. Who's to know? Once again, I'm speculating there, but for something nefarious to have taken place, right? That is a potential. And once again, that's just me being curious in terms of, potential for malice or bad actors involved. But once again, there's still the very real or plausible explanation that it was a leak somehow. But once again, the fact that the Canadian government, this lab, had close connection, ties, and relationships with these, not just these Chinese scientists, but the Wuhan lab in China where COVID-19, took off, the origins, right? So, like I say, really, this should almost be enough, but no, wait, there's more, believe me, and we're going to get to it.
Wandering around where they shouldn't be. Generally, you'll send them to the lab, they'll do their work, you'll be in your office, and then they can walk around and do what they want.
Authorities we've spoken to about this are tight-lipped. The Public Health Agency says disclosure of any information to do with this case is prohibited unless authorized by the Attorney General or the federal court. CSIS never confirms or denies.
And that's another big thing too, right? Whether it's the NDAs, right? Non-disclosure agreements, or the fact that these organizations are so, I gotta sneeze. Anyways, are so secretive, right? I mean, that's the thing. Really, really difficult to try to get any answers when you got these people basically closing their doors, right? Right? And locking up the file folders and basically telling anyone nobody can say anything. And the threat would be, or if you dare say something, there's going to be ramifications and punishments for do so. And most people, right, don't want to go through that shit. We know how rare it is for someone to step up to become a whistleblower because we know how detrimental that's going to be for the rest of their lives going forward, right? Boy, I really wish there were more and more people like your Edward Snowdens of the world, right? And had the courage of their convictions to stand up and speak out, even in the face of some serious and potential backlash. Boy, oh boy. And maybe, who's to say, like I say, maybe that will still happen. Who knows? I know I'm not going to stop, talking about this story. A lot of people in the establishment may very well, but I'll bring it up from time to time, right? Hopefully to spark people's interest at the very least.
Has anything to do with its cases, and the RCMP won't talk about an ongoing investigation.
At the next stop sign, turn left.
Chu and her husband Kiring Chung's whereabouts are unknown. When CBC recently visited their primary residence in Winnipeg, a young man answered the door.
Hi, how are you?
In a brief conversation, he would not confirm if the couple is still in Winnipeg, but told us he would reach them.
I can relay your message, but again, no guarantees, right?
No guarantees the truth will ever be known unless Chu comes forward to tell her story or those uncensored documents are revealed. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Tunnel thing on traffic. He also tweets a lot. Elon.
So anyway, so as you see, now actually let me just minimize that so I can see when that one was actually reported, the exact time, because I want to get all the dates for these. So that was July 7th, 2021. So now you're, what was that? Like a year later from the first original point. And apparently this person and their husband just up and disappeared like a fart in the wind and hasn't been seen, or at least up until this point, right? So yeah, what's up with that? If you got nothing to hide, isn't that usually the rhetoric for people, to suggest, well, hey, you got nothing to hide, why are you hiding, right? So, I mean, at bare minimum, like I say, should be piquing people's curiosities. All right, so I'll bring that off, and like I say, they'll both be included in the live stream. Oh yeah, actually, I just wanted to make sure that my YouTube is working. Yeah, everything's good over there. Actually, let me now that I covered those two really important videos, let me just get back here and see what you folks are saying in the chat. Okay. I don't think it's a top secret lab anymore. No, you're right about that, Liquid Gal, right? No, not really. Yeah, I would imagine it's not too top secret, considering the fact that it's been, like I say, reported on and multiple times. And yeah, we even see what the building looks like. Well, I would imagine if you're from Winnipeg or places like that, you're probably privy to that kind of information anyways, or at least some people would be, right? But yeah, good point. Harper was told about intellectual properties were being stolen from Winnipeg University. Oh, really? That's interesting. That is interesting. Hey, I forgot you were streaming, so hopefully the snowmobile didn't interrupt this. That's all good, Double A. No problem, man, if you get a chance to see this. But yeah, pop up later there. I want to see that sled anyways. So anyways, yeah, let me get back into it here. So where was this first one? So I'm going to just bring a bunch of them up, put them into the live streams, into the live stream here. Oh, let me let me see over on the X if I've got any comments. Actually, some of the comments should be coming through, right? If I get comments, I believe they should be coming through even over on X. But anyways, no, I was going to read some more comments. No, actually, they're done. Okay. I feel Timmy Tam is a Chinese operative holding one of the highest positions in Canada Health. once again, I don't know. That's pure speculation, of course, but I mean, who's to say? We do know. Well, do you remember that film, right? And the kind of things that she espoused in that film, and that film was all about how they were creating this. It was like a virus, but it was like it was setting up the possibility for it. It was like a movie or a documentary thing. But it's like, wow, that turned out to be almost exactly right. So yes, of course, a lot of these things cause heightened suspicion for a multitude of people, and why not? I mean, it only makes sense that people are going to be curious and concerned when you put all the pieces of the puzzle together, right? I mean, come on, just like some of the folks are saying in this chat, there's just so much about this story and so many different connections that seem to be intertwined or intertangled amongst each other. Then, yeah, like I said, we really need to get to the bottom of this. Yeah, you remember seeing that, Corey? That was wild. She's sitting there talking about, like basically what they would do, like, which they did, like locking down entire societies, putting people in quarantine. Well, whether you want to call them camps or hotels, right? Same shit, different pile. As far as I'm concerned, people were put in these quarantine areas against their will, forcibly so, told that they were not allowed to leave, with a threat of whether it's fines or I don't know if there was a prison or not, but with threats and consequences if they did. And of course, we all know, I mean, just by the simple fact that, and it took a long time for them to actually own up to and admit that, yeah, even with the vaccines, they were never going to stop you from getting COVID, and they were never, ever going to prevent you from transmitting it. That we finally know, well, I've known for a long time, is just 100% fact. How long before we got to that point? How much craziness took place during that timeline when the hacks in the establishment media, some of these experts in healthcare fields, some of these petty tyrants and control freaks, right? I mean, think about how, and they just seem to revel in the fact that they had, these people that are normally just like scientist types now had so much sway, power, and control over the masses, right? Unelected. No one fucking voted for any of these healthcare people. But to give them that kind of authority or power for the politicians to give these so-called experts or people in the healthcare field that much power to use the full force and might of the state and their mindless order followers, right? Think about how many times they targeted and attacked, whether it's that young man Ocean, whatever, out west in Alberta, just skating. I mean, I won't even get into the countless examples where there was, what was it, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of fines handed out. Maybe I think it might have been even into the millions. I don't know for sure, but and harassment, targeting, and bullying to anyone that dared to either question the narrative or not go along with the program, right? Or to think critically or for themselves. Think about it. Like I say, we all, I mean, especially if you're part of this conversation or watching this live stream, you probably felt a lot of that shit yourself. And maybe, I mean, I even noticed now, luckily no one in my immediate family, but I had actually, you could count two really. I lost two friends. I'm not close or anything, just by me having an alternative perspective or opinion on the whole COVID narrative and the vaccine bullshit and the mandates, right? So, and that was just, and that's with kind of person, like I usually don't surround myself, which is why my immediate circle, we're all good to go, right? But I mean, even I felt it. So I could just imagine what it's like to have mostly normies in your life who are not properly educated, informed, or have helped to try to help explain this to others, right? Or you have the ability to defend yourself against some of the targeted accusations or the bullying or the intimidation tactics that they used. And the fact that the military were even involved, you all know that, right? Once again, that's covered, where they put on this big propaganda campaign, right? To target people who weren't going along with the program. Like that, this is just massive. And like I say, what I find so strange for the people, even some of the people in the establishment that are kind of hoping this will get swept down the road. Do you not know that there's going to be people in the future going to write about this shit? Like, do you fucking think that this is just all going to get swept under the carpet and the rug, especially in the modern information age we live in, where people like myself have it all archived and documented, right? With redundancy built in. You think it's never going away, right? So, I mean, that's the thing. Why destroy your credibility and your reputation so thoroughly For what? For what? Like I say, the people that are going along with this stuff or just lying by omission or sitting on the sidelines, but know full well some information, well, that just means in the future, yeah, your name is not going to, not going to be a good one going forward. Your name, your reputation will be sullied and soiled, not just once you're long gone, but way long past that. You might want to think about that, even if you don't care about anything else. Maybe if it's only your rational self-interest that you care about. Well, that should be enough. That should be enough. Anyway, so like I say, let me bring up this article here. Was this Chinese researcher? So like I say, I'm just going to bring them up. I should have done this as actually what was it? Where you just keep going. Anyways, a bit of a brain fog, I guess, here. So here we go. This, once again, this article, and of course, I think, did I put them in chronological order? I believe I did. So let me just get down here. This one, think about this. So this was even before. Think about it, folks, because I want to get the timeline right on this too, right? This is another really key factor and an important area of this whole story is the timeline in which it unfolds. So this was, like I say, a CBC News article, Manitoba. Chinese researcher escorted from infectious disease lab amid RCMP investigation. Public Health Agency of Canada describes it as a possible policy breach. No risk to Canadian public, right? Yeah, it's over in another country for now, at least at that time, right? Anyways, let me continue on. So once again, Karen Pauls, and I mean, thank you, Karen Pauls, for at least reporting on this, because it seems like this Karen Pauls was one of the few CBC contributors that did it. And if I don't know if you'd ever watch my video, Karen, but yeah, please do more work, do more investigating. Canadians want to know what the hell is going on or what took place. Anyway, so this was, like I say, July 14th, 2019, right? The whole COVID thing, this is actually 6 months or so before the whole COVID thing come to our shores from Wuhan, of all places, right? That's a big, big deal. This story was published on July 14th, 2019. A researcher with ties. So basically, I won't necessarily read the article because it's basically just kind of reiterating what we've already heard in that video. We know that this person has gone missing. They had a connection with Wuhan. So we kind of know that. But like I say, all that information, if you do want to gain more information, because like I say, I'm going to try to not drag this much, but get as much information, resources and materials and articles contained within this live stream, so that makes it much more easier and seamless for you to share with others, and just let them know that if you really are curious or inquisitive and you want to learn more about this, all this information is going to be linked in the description of the video. And I definitely recommend, because I will say, when I go back to some of my Facebook posts, man, I go and see content not available. But of course, that's the problem with Facebook and stuff not allowing news media in Canada, and we know the reasoning behind it, right? But so this is going to be a little bit more difficult too, depending on the social media platform that you frequent or use, as your main platform, which is why X is really good to source nowadays, because X will allow this kind of information to be put on their platform, right? But yeah, this stuff here, like I say, we don't want this information. Well, like I say, it'll always be archived for me, but not everyone's going to have access to me or my material, or very few people even know about it. So as many people out there that can, after this live stream is done, take all this information, reshare it yourself, or archive it for yourself. Because the more of us that have access to this information, so that we can use it at some point in the future, the better. Redundancy, it's a good thing in this particular example. But yeah, so let me bring that off. So that's in one article. Now this one, I'm going to go on to the next one. This one is a Global News, I believe. Just one sec here, folks. Manitoba. So yeah, so this one here, I'll read just a little bit of this. Investigations. This was by Austin Siragusa Global News. This was July 13th, 2019. So this would have been, well, think about it, just a day before. So this was reported in around the same time frame. So like I say, it's not like it was just CBC that reported on it. And actually, I could go back and probably find some of the other establishment outlets that reported on it as well. So it's not like this information wasn't put out there. And why during the whole COVID outbreak, why weren't these very same people in the media, or at least these media institutions or organizations, why weren't they referencing and pointing to this stuff during that whole time, right? Well, you didn't hear them bringing on experts to talk about this stuff when they were talking about it. Didn't seem to be a whole lot of consorted or coordinated effort to try to tie any of this stuff together at all. It seemed to be the most important thing to them in particular was to target anyone who questioned the narrative, not to expand upon or try to get people thinking more critically about it. That's the part that I find most disturbing. Like I say, it's not like this information wasn't reported on. We know it has been. It's there. It's in black and white, literally. So anyways, like I said, Manitoba RCMP investigate possible policy breach at National Microbiology Lab. Manitoba RCMP are investigating a possible policy breach at the National Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg. Police received a referral from the Public Health Agency of Canada. RCMP confirmed. Based on information received to date, the RCMP had assessed that there is no threat to public safety at this time, the statement said. In order to maintain the integrity of the investigative process, we have no further comments at this time. The Public Health Agency describes it as a policy breach and administrative matter and says the department is taking steps to resolve it expeditiously. But once again, like we're learning, it was an investigation. These people were fired and escorted out of that facility. So, right? Seems like something that's a little bit more than just an administrative error or policy breach. Policy breach. Yeah, definitely. Because, there's a lot of areas where you could consider something a policy breach, taking things without express implied permission from one, level 4 lab to another lab, right? Especially if there's any connections to the Chinese government, the Chinese military, that would be a major policy breach. And we already learned from the videos that is something that very much probably happened, right? Or at least has the potential. So yeah, I'll bring this one off. So let me close that one up and the other one. Move on to the next. So like I say, this timeline is, so these were both in July of 2019. So keep that in mind, folks. We're going to move on to this next one. And these are just the ones that I selected. I could have selected more, but these are the ones that I thought, well, there's enough contained in these ones. And like I say, was there probably close to a dozen different sources and materials and articles that I'm going to be referencing or covering in this. And the ones that I don't necessarily get to, like I say, will all be linked in the description below. Yeah, here we go. So this one, like I say, the date on this one, once again, CBC investigates Manitoba. Mystery around 2 fired scientists points to larger issue at Canada's high security lab, former colleague says. An honest, open discussion from the beginning would have been very, very useful. Yeah, think? So once again, Karen Pauls, this time though, joining Karen Pauls was Kimberly Ivany, I believe is the name. And this was July 8th, 2021. So basically, well, this is actually 2 years later. I thought for sure I had some from 2020. So anyways, I might have missed out on one. So this one, actually, we're getting into 2021 here. But once again, this is quite a while afterwards, right? And anyways, I think this is kind of along the same lines as when the videos were put out. If you remember, I believe the video was right around that time. So yeah. So you're probably going to get the same kind of information. I'll just read a little bit. 2 leading scientists are standing by a pair of, yeah. So basically just reiterating what was said in that one. So anyways, here's a picture of these 2 scientists for what it's worth. Anyways, and of course the name was Dr. Zhanggu Qi and her biologist husband, Kading Chang. And they, as of course it's being acknowledged here, they were stripped of their security clearances and escorted from the lab. That was back. So once again, just like we seen earlier, those first couple articles, that was done in July of 2019. This is now being talked about in 2021. They were then fired in January. So they were escorted from the lab. And then so basically 6 months later, So, if it was just a simple, honest mistake, well, for some reason, 6 months later, they were fired. Right? So, seems like maybe there's a little bit something more that was learned that would have caused them to be in turn fired, not just investigated and escorted out of the level 4 lab, but then subsequently fired months later. For months, opposition MPs have been demanding answers about the couple's dismissal and the removal of the Chinese students they were working with, asking whether it could be linked to espionage. PHAC and government officials have remained tight-lipped about the dismissal, initially citing privacy legislation, of course, but more recently saying the case involves national security concerns. So once again, they're just going to use this kind of, it's national security or like the NDAs or, privacy legislation. So they're basically staying super tight-lipped and not properly informed us. That should outrage anybody, right? I mean, what the hell? These are people, that's the thing. They're supposed to, if you believe in democracy, right, they're supposed to be, working for the people. Sure shit doesn't seem that way to me. Well, it hasn't seemed like that for as long as I've been paying attention. But anyways, I'll move on from that. Anyways, they get into the whole intellectual property dispute. So like I say, I'll just move on. So that one there was, what was it again? July 2021. Yep. Okay. Oh, here we go. Actually, wait. So there was this one. Let me bring this one up because I guess I didn't have it perfectly presented in chronological order. Shame on me, because here's actually another one. Or is it the same one? No, this is different. Oh, no, actually, this is really important. Actually, I'm glad I brought this one up. So actually, I should have brought this one up before the last one. Disregard, but at the very least, we're going to cover it anyway. So here we go. This one is Karen Paul's once again, and this one was actually reported on October 3rd, 2019. So, what are you looking at? So what was it? July, August, September. So 3 months after the first reporting that took place, and they were escorted back in July of 2019. So let me just read a little bit from here. Canadian government scientists under investigation trained staff at level 4 lab in China. Wuhan, China, to clarify. Still no answers in probe of government scientists expelled from National Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg. So this was once again them kind of following up to a degree 3 months later and pointing out the fact that not only was there a relationship back and forth, but these Canadian government scientists, right, are the ones who actually trained the staff over there in that lab in Wuhan. So once again, more and more connections. This story was published on October 3rd, 2019. A Canadian government scientist at a national microbiology lab in Winnipeg made at least 5 trips to China in 2017, 2018. So once again, this is going back even a couple of years prior to COVID. Because, if you're doing any gain of function research or any of this nefarious shit, or like, once again, you still leave out the possibility of a leak or an accident. But if you were actually genuinely doing that, that research, that gain of function research, well, it's going to take you a couple of years, right? A little while. It's not going to happen overnight. So all of this stuff, once again, all the connections make complete sense without even getting conspiratorial in any way in terms of the whole timeline and how it played out. And the fact that there very well might be a connection to this story, this investigation, and the very coincidental outbreak of COVID-19 very shortly after all of this stuff took place, right? Okay. Including one to train scientists and technicians at China's newly certified level 4 lab, which does research with the most deadly pathogens, according to travel documents obtained by CBC News. Xingu Qi, who was escorted out of the Winnipeg lab in July amid an RCMP investigation into what's being described by Public Health Agency of Canada as a possible policy breach, was invited to go to the Wuhan National Biosafety Laboratory of the Chinese Academy of Science twice a year for 2 years for up to 2 weeks each time. Right? Major connections, like I say. This will be third-party funded and therefore no cost to the Public Health Agency of Canada, says the documents obtained through access to information requests. The identity of the third party was redacted. That's interesting. That's disturbing. Who's the third party? What organization, right? Chinese military? The Communist Party of China? I don't know. Be nice to know, but it wasn't meant to be known because apparently that particular information was redacted. So not for us to know, although I think it's something that we really should know. During a September 19th to 30th, 2017 trip, she also met with collaborators in Beijing, the documents say, but their names have also been blacked out. Very, very interesting, right? Very interesting. Key, her husband, Kading Chang, and her students from China were removed on July 5th from Canada's only level 4 lab, one equipped to work with the most serious and deadly human and animal diseases such as Ebola. Security access to the couple and the Chinese students was revoked. Sources who work at the lab previously told CBC News. People working inside the lab told CBC News this week they have heard the couple may return to work soon. Well, apparently not, right? Apparently not, because we know that they were there visiting at, 2021 or whatever, and trying to figure, well, what's going on? And nope, they disappeared like a fart in the wind. Several of them who asked not to be identified for fears of retribution. Really, seems to be a lot of people fearful of retribution here, right? If there was nothing nefarious or nothing underhanded, right, taking place, what do you got to fear? Say there have always been questions about Key's trips to China and what information and technology she was sharing with researchers there. It's not right that she's a Canadian government employee providing details of top secret work and know-how to set up a high containment lab for a foreign nation, one employee said. The staff member claims RCMP officers have not yet interviewed key people at the lab because senior management has not made them accessible to police or allow staff to contact them with relevant information. So, that certainly stymies or stifles the investigation, right? If the bigwigs won't even allow these people to be interviewed by the police, and that's the thing, boy, they seem to have a whole lot of power that even the police, like the RCMP, Canada's FBI, CIA, the federales, they can't even get access to this stuff, huh? Really? Interesting. Who's really running things these days, right? That's the thing about bureaucracy in the deep state. These are unelected bureaucrats or officials or just scientists or people that, once again, they seem to have a lot of an outstretched capacity or pretense of power or authority that they most certainly don't deserve, right? Not considering the fact that they're supposed to be our employees. I'm once again not like I believe that nonsense, but for those who do, these are supposed to be your employees, right? You pay them. You're forced to pay them, right? But at the very least, the rhetoric that the media or the government espouses democracy, the people, right? We're the people. We're the ones in charge of things. We're the voters. But yet, doesn't seem like the voters have much sway, power, or influence these days, or especially when you're up against the deep state or the bureaucracy or experts, right? A spokesperson for the Public Health Agency of Canada, which runs a lab, referred questions to the RCMP. We encourage anyone who has information and wishes to speak with the RCMP on this matter to attend RCMP HQ in Winnipeg at 1091 Portage Avenue, RCMP said in an emailed statement. So, they're looking for whistleblowers. It seems like to me, they're hoping, I would imagine, or at least someone in there, is at least seemingly willing to, ramp up this investigation and try to get to the bottom of things. And once again, I'm being overly generous to these people that I don't know what their intentions or anything is, but I'll err on the side of at least they're trying, or at least some are, right? I'll give them the benefit of the doubt for now. In order to maintain the integrity of the investigative process, we have no further comment at this time. A spokesperson confirms the police investigation is ongoing. Both agencies have said repeatedly there's no threat to public safety. Meanwhile, there's been no change in Queen Ching's status at the University of Manitoba, which has severed ties with both of them and reassigned her students in July. He is a medical doctor and virologist who helped Oh, wait, no, this was before she was let go in January, right? This was in October. Yeah, because she was let go, fired in January. So this is before that her and her husband were even fired. Okay. Key is a medical doctor and virologist who helped develop the ZMapp, a treatment for the deadly Ebola virus, which killed more than 11,000 people in West Africa between 2014 and 2016 and saw an outbreak in Congo earlier this year. She is a medical doctor from Tianjin, China, who came to Canada for graduate studies in 1996. She is still affiliated with the university there and has brought in many students over the years to help with her work. During her trips, Key also visited the Chinese Academy of Science, Tsinghua University, the Chinese Medical Academy of Science, and Beijing Institute of Biotechnology. She spoke at several conferences, including some organized by the World Health Organization, the Chinese Society of Virology, and International Symposium of Emerging Viral Disease. Collaboration and information sharing is common and expected in academia, says Jia Wang, deputy director of the China Institute at the University of Alberta in Edmonton. In an increasing global, now come on, we already had the guy say that sharing some stuff, okay, but Canadians and Americans, or at least how they claim, not supposed to be actively involved or participating or collaborating for gain of fucking function research, which we know has the potential to be very detrimental and something that would have the potential to create a very deadly and contagious virus. That, if you're playing that kind of game, that is a very real outcome or potential. So this is a little bit misleading in some way, at least in terms of, collaboration. Yeah, maybe in some regards, but not in all. In an increasingly globalized world, in an increasingly globalized field of research, we do see more exchange and more visits incoming and outgoing, she said. But researchers working with international partners also need to understand the security parameters and the requirements to follow the procedures and to safeguard intellectual property and also safeguard their research, she said. There's a balance they need to strike between being cautious and open-minded to collaboration, though Wang said. In the end, we are hoping that this research exchange will ultimately benefit Canadians and benefit our people here. Key and Chang have not responded to multiple requests for comments. Relations between Canada and China have been strained since the detention last year. Anyways, that's the end of that article. Once again, that'll be linked in the description of the stream below. But yeah, like I say, this is a lot of disturbing information here, folks. A lot of disturbing information that makes those connections so profound. Oh, okay. So this is actually an audio. I won't bother playing this, will I? This actually, I definitely recommend though, because I don't, like I said, this one's 21 minutes long and it's only in audio form, so I won't play it. I won't bore you folks with it. I'll just read the caption underneath here. Let me bring it up so that you folks can see it presented on the screen. Where is that? Is it this one? Yeah, this is it. So this is from the program Front Burner. It's a CBC radio program. I listen to it quite frequently. Sometimes I feel like I got to throw up on my mouth some of the rhetoric espoused in it. But hey, once again, you got to keep tabs on what these thought leaders or these opinion makers are saying, right? Questions still surrounding Y2's. Oh, by the way, this was done with, it says 3 years ago. 3 years ago. I'm not seeing the exact date. So it seems like, it's 2024 now, so it could be 2021, but it also could have been, late 2023, somewhere in around that, or 2020, sorry. But anyway, so here, it actually says right down here, the question still surround why 2 sightings were marched out of the Winnipeg lab in 2019 and why they're being investigated by the RCMP. But the story has links to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and many experts suspect Chinese espionage. Now pressure's mounted on the federal government to explain. And so anyway, so like I say, I recommend, I know some people get triggered even at the very prospect or thought of listening to the CBC, but hey, if you can power through it, right, I guarantee, that's the thing. I guarantee even a broken clock can be right twice a day. And even these hacks in this national media, whether inadvertently or just by sheer fact, it's kind of part and parcel of the job, you can get some information. Now, they might try to manipulate and distort that information, but the information is still going to be there. That's the thing, folks, right? So I at bare minimum, I definitely recommend you at least go through and listen to it. So let me bring that one off. Okay, and the next one, oh, this is still from 2019 as well. So this was from back in, let me bring this one up. This was still from back in July of 2019. So I thought for sure I had them all lined up, but either way, anyways, it's all good. It's all good. University severs ties with 2 researchers who were escorted out of national bike. Or did I have this maybe the same article twice up here? That's possible. Although this one was last updated a day later. So anyways, like I say, all this is going to be included. But this one, Dr. Xiangu Qi is Dr. Xiangu Qi students have also been reassigned pending RCMP investigation. And of course, still Karen Paul's report on this, like I say, originally July 15th and then updated the next day on the 16th. The University of Manitoba has cut ties with 2 researchers who were escorted out of the National Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg earlier this month until the RCMP investigation is complete. Anyway, so I think we're basically just getting the same kind of information here, but yeah, pretty much. So I'll just, like I say, make sure to link this in the description below. And just for the hell of it, just for people who prefer a different source than the CBC News, I'll just bring this up as well. If you just, if you would prefer to use a different source, I figured, why not include something different? So this was Yahoo News. And actually, they're just, look at it, it's just a repost CBC story, actually. So, but you can at least use Yahoo's site, I guess, for your reference material you want. But it is basically just a reiterating or a rehashing of the CBC article, basically, right? So there's that. And like I say, that's going to be linked as well. Oh, and I got a CTV one too, because some people prefer a CTV, right? I got you covered, folks. I got you covered. Like I say, I even got True North, as we'll get to here in a bit. If you just don't want to deal with the CBC or CTV or Global or any of these ones or Yahoo News, well, let's say you can use True North as a source. Pretty sure you can find National Post article. Actually, I think I got one of them a little bit further down, actually, too. So let's get to this one. Yeah, here we go. Manitoba University cuts ties with Ebola researcher pending RCMP investigation. So this was, right around the exact same time. So this was where they were cut ties, but as far as I know, they weren't completely fired. But anyway, so this is one actually from the Canadian Press, just basically copy and paste by CTV News. That's the thing, folks. Really, only a couple of real media outlets that do the actual investigating, then they all just basically copy and paste, right? And that's just a fact, right? That's just a fact. Which is probably why, it's a lot of money within these institutions, and no wonder a lot of them have had to, greatly reduce their budgets and lay off a lot of people. It seems like a tremendous amount of redundancy for not a whole lot of return. Not like you're getting any extra information. You're basically just getting, like I say, a copy and paste. That's a lot of money to spend. I mean, Trudeau threw them $600 million. What? So you could just regurgitate and repeat what someone else is reporting? Maybe try doing your own investigative research. Maybe add something to the equation. Anyways, that's just me. So the Canadian Press, July 16th, 2019. The University of Manitoba has cut ties with an Ebola vaccine researcher pending the results of an investigation. A spokesman said the school has ended the non-salaried adjunct appointments of Dr. Jiang Qi and her husband, Kating Chang. Qi, a renowned virologist who received her original medical training in China, helped develop a vaccine for the Ebola virus at the National Microbiology Laboratory in Winnipeg. Chang also worked at the lab as a researcher. The Canadian Press has been unable to reach Qi or Chang for comment. The Public Health Agency of Canada said on Monday that it was taking steps to address an administrative matter at the lab. The agency said in a statement that it alerted the RCMP of a possible policy breach on May 24th, adding that no employee of the lab is under arrest or confined to their home. The laboratory is Canada's highest security infectious disease research facility dealing with deadly contagious germs. Anyway, so basically just, once again, it's just repeat and regurgitate what we're already privy to. Okay, so here's another one. Let me get this one up here. This one. So now we're getting a little further into things. This is May 11th, 2021. Once again, Karen Paul's headline: Public Health Agency refusing to disclose uncensored documents on Winnipeg virus lab. Foreign Affairs critic wants to know what Canada's role was in training, equipping Wuhan virology lab. So the Public Health Agency, right? That the organization, that institution that Theresa Tam is in charge of, right? The top doc there, right? Refusing to disclose uncensored documents. Yeah, censored documents. Oh, we got here. Look at all that black ink. Go right to it, right? But the uncensored stuff. Oh, no, we can't share that, right? Causes suspicion, wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you think? It causes me to be suspicious, right? What do you got to hide? As the Public Health Agency of Canada refused to release uncensored internal documents, a Conservative MP says he wants to know how far Canada's collaboration with China on level 4 pathogen went, and why 2 federal scientists were let go by the National Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg in January. And you got to remember, I just got to point out, this guy, this MP, sad that I know this much about politicians in this country, but unfortunately you have to if you want to fucking know what the hell these petty tyrants and control freaks are doing, right? But yeah, this is that Michael Chong guy, right? And wasn't it reported recently, just last year in 2023, that he and his family is a target of the Chinese government? I wonder if it's the fact that he raises concerns about the Chinese government. I wonder if there's any connection there, right? Right? Seems like could be. He wants to know what Canada's collaborative with China, level 4. We need these documents. We need to know what the government of Canada was doing through the National Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg with respect to cooperating with the Wuhan Institute of Virology in Wuhan, China. Conservative Foreign Affairs critic Michael Chong said during a special parliamentary committee hearing on Canada-China relations Monday night. The special committee has demanded to know why 2 federal government scientists were escorted out of Canada's only level 4 lab in July 2019, just 4 months after one of them shipped samples of the Ebola and Hendra viruses to the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China. Stories first published by CBC News. 2 months after that shipment, on May 24, 2019, the Public Health Agency of Canada referred an administrative matter to RCMP that resulted in the removal of the 2 Chinese research scientists, Zhenggu Qi and her husband, Kading Chang, and several international students on July 5th. And several international students. So once again, there's that part of the story as well, right? We can't forget. It's not just these 2 scientists. It's who are these students as well? They're definitely, they need to be questioned, right? If only we knew where they were. Maybe somebody could investigate that. We do live in the age of information, after all. The committee says it wants to know why Zhenggu Qi and Kading Chang were let go this past January. The Canadian public has the right to know what the extent of that cooperation was, why these 2 scientists there were terminated, and what exactly happened with the transfer of Hendra and Ebola viruses, and any other workings and goings-ons between the government of Canada institution and this virology lab in Wuhan, Chong said. Despite repeated requests from the committee, and you got to remember, all these things that are highlighted like this, it'll link you to another article. So not only do you have access to all these articles, but even more information contained in other articles that are sourced in these articles. So, like I say, tremendous amount of information. If you're the kind of person that, like I say, I do my best, folks, but I don't get paid for this. Like I cover a million other things. But if someone wants to actively make an effort to take all this information and try to put it all together, right? And maybe you could be, someone that comes up with something that even people like myself or no one else has thought of yet. By all means, have at her, right? Have at her. Like I said, I don't just do this stuff just for the hell of it. I acknowledge, I kind of try to stay in my own wheelhouse, my own lane, right? I do what I do. I bring what I bring to the table, right? Philosophy, ideas, and the principles, and talk about, what it is to be a free human being. But yeah, I'm not an investigative journalist. There are people that are much more proficient and competent to do those kinds of things than myself, and probably have a lot more resources at their disposal in order to do so as well, or maybe more connections. So like I say, anything that anybody can do to contribute to learning more about this story, please, by all means, do whatever you can. So refuse those questions or provide uncensored internal documents saying it can't release personal information under federal. So sorry, can't do it. We've tied our own hands and feet behind our back. Now it's of our own making, but hey, can't do it, right? Okay. It did provide 271 pages of documents to the committee in advance on Monday's meeting, but much of it was censored. Yeah. What the hell is this, right? Yeah, exactly. I can only imagine. We've redacted documents where the information pertains to personal information, investigations, or security matters, which basically mean everything almost, right? Or at least almost everything. The reason we've done so is that as public servants, we're bound by law to keep confidential information confidential. PHAC President Lane Stewart told the committee. Well, isn't that fucking convenient, huh? Sorry. No, that's just not good enough. It's not that we're wishing to be uncooperative or unresponsive. We're disclosing as much as we can within the limits of the law. Unfortunately, right? But you agreed to all that shit. Maybe you shouldn't have agreed. Maybe you should have pushed back. Or maybe you should say, no, it's more important. Because Edward Snowden, people like Edward Snowden, yeah, they signed NDA agreements, and they probably had good reason to think, oh yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to sell secrets of, my government to other people or all this stuff, or I might put people in danger if I, release too much. Of course, that's always a concern, a pressing concern to worry about. But would you recognize, especially in particular, a story like this and the profound ramifications of some of the information that might come to light and how that affected all of us, the possible COVID connections there? Yeah, this is the time where it's like, yeah, well, you can continue to be, loyal to the state because the state demanded you not to speak out, or you could be a principled character or individual and say, you know what? No, especially if you're working for the public sector, are you all about the greater good? Isn't that your whole fucking reason for going into these occupations in the first place? Because you want to do work for humanity. You want to be there for the greater good and to help bring about the greater good of society, right? Well, the greater good is properly informing the people who are forced to pay your salary, right? Not to muzzle yourself at the behest or the request of some people who, yeah, maybe not the greatest people on the planet, right? Maybe not the most honest, forthright, or upstanding people. Maybe people who have a lot to hide themselves. Liberal MP Robert, what was that? Oliphant, Parliamentary Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, told Stewart he should get a second opinion on that. I think the Justice Department is not giving you the best advice, he said. Stewart did provide more information on the shipment of Ebola and Hennepin samples from Winnipeg to the Wuhan lab. He said the shipment was done properly. I mean, that's the thing. They keep focusing on this one shipment, but we know that it goes all the way back to, what was it, 2017, 2018, that this kind of shipments and these back and forth trips to China took place. So I don't understand the hyper focus on this one shipment. I don't get that. I really don't. Step back and think about the whole picture here. Stop getting so hyper focused on that one shipment, right? Like I say, there's a lot more that we can learn. While this is the only time that we have shared virus samples with this particular lab, collaboration with labs outside of Canada are critical to advance. While this is the only time that we have shared virus samples with this particular lab. Well, that's the thing. I mean, if that's the only time, but it doesn't seem by the preponderance of the information that I've been reading and hearing so far that was the only time. Seems like there's a potential there was more of that. But anyways, let me continue on. Because once again, I'm not privy enough to know all this information myself. Given our standing as a collaborating partner for viral fever viruses, as well as our knowledge on regulations and standards for these types of transfers, the laboratory in Winnipeg is often asked to provide materials to new or existing programs, including laboratories in the United States. Well, once again, there's always that possible relationship. And it's strange that we're not seeing any connection there, considering we're literally the northern neighbors of the U.S. and the CDC down there, and the fact that Rand Paul and others have talked or grilled Fauci in terms of funding some of this gain of function research in China. It's strange that they're still only talking about like Canada and the Wuhan laboratory connection with as it pertains to these particular scientists. But I'm kind of starting to think, just like with the whole Five Eyes thing, right? When Edward let out, it's not just Canada, the US, but yeah, well, these spy agencies or some of these bureaucratic institutions, there's a lot of relationships, other than just that one off, like the China, Canada. There could be an American connection to this as well, which is why, like I say, more and more investigation and information needs to come to light. The National Microbiology Lab is open to provide materials in a safe, responsible, and transparent fashion with other labs in order to foster global collaboration rather than enable research on any given disease to be monopolized by specific teams. So this is just PR, right? I mean, when you're saying stuff like that, that's just PR 101. Just PR 101 to tamp down or try to alleviate anyone's concerns or inquisitive nature. Conservative human rights critic Garrett Genius said there is a precedent in a 2010 ruling fulfilling the committee's request for unredacted documents. Oh, really? So this is an interesting part here, right? That ruling by the Speaker of the House of Commons found the Harper government breached parliamentary privilege when it refused to produce uncensored documents on the treatment of Afghan detainees. It ordered that the materials be turned over to MPs. Chong said Canadians have a right to know the full backstory, and the committee has the legal right to compel the release of unredacted documents. So, boom! There you go. According to Chong, the MPs, so whether you talk about the Conservatives, the Liberals, the NDippers, the fucking Greens, the Bloc Quebec, apparently they have the legal right to get to the bottom of this. Have they done it? No. Why? Would be my question. Right? He asked some pointed questions about what the National Microbiology Lab did to build up the capacity of its counterpart in Wuhan, China. A virology lab some have tried to link to the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic. Those theories have not been substantiated yet. But boy, there seems to be a lot of anecdotal evidence that point that way, doesn't it? There are two theories about how the coronavirus emerged. One is that it was a zoonotic, Chong told the committee. A zoonotic virus is one that jumps from an animal species to human. Now, of course, that's possible. But the other one seems every bit as much, if not more possible or plausible, which is the other is that somehow came out of the National Institute of Virology lab in Wuhan, he continued. This is not in some dark part of the web driven by conspiracies. These are reputable people raising very real concerns. And I would agree. I'm a very reasonable person raising some very reasonable concerns. And yes, there are some other Canadians who are as well, but I don't think not nearly enough, right? Like I say, there's more people, more Canadians need to get actively, Americans for that matter, right? Anyone that was affected or concerned about what took place for 3+ years, right? Like I say, don't forget, don't let your attention span, Canadians, or anyone, like, don't let this shit just fly under the radar or become just something in the past. Like, remember something? No, we got to keep this front and center. That's why I do what I do. I'm trying to keep it in the minds, right? In the collective conscience of the masses, right? Let people, it's really important that people think about these things, or at least are privy to hearing this kind of information. Because think about how many Canadians who are absolutely clueless and have never heard this stuff before, because they don't have the time and don't put in the effort to try to learn this stuff, because they're probably too busy just trying to fucking figure out how to get by with all the insanity that's been taking place, in particular in terms of economics, like the proverbial dog chasing his tail all day long, never, ever, ever being able to catch it, right? It's rough out there, especially in particular for the young people. I mean, I like I say, anyways, let me move on here. Liberal MP Peter, whatever, accused Chong of spreading disinformation. This brings nothing. This brings nothing to the equation, right? Basically, you're trying to tell people, oh no, don't question anything. And that's the other thing. Doesn't even have to be nefarious. We know how much of a fan, not just Trudeau, but some of his ministers are on the whole China thing, right? And their basic dictatorship. We know that they basically try to emulate that kind of shit. So it could just be not just sheer incompetence. Like I say, I'll even take malice out of the equation. Sheer incompetence and an affinity for the whole Chinese thing and thinking that they're so much superior to us and things that we got to yield to their way of doing things. That's another very real potential, right? So once again, you don't even have to bring malice involved in this equation. Just people, being people, right? We're all fallible human beings, and we can all place ourselves in compromised or positions where we might inadvertently, cause, or at least be part and parcel of the cause or a contributor to some of the crazy shit that takes place. And like I say, this is not me to finger point at anyone in particular, except until we learn what the hell took place, the investigation gets tied up, and these people actually run through a proper legal process. And that's the other thing. I don't even know if I have any faith in the legal process or the justice system in this fucking country anymore. But at bare minimum, you can kind of hope that maybe somebody will be held to account at some point in time. Anyway, so this would be just more political rhetoric and accusations. Not going to waste too much time with that one. But once again, this is an interesting article. Actually, I should have scrolled down. So yeah, so no. So like I say, I'll close that one up. And here's another one. So this one here. And yeah, folks, I'll get to, if there's any more comments in there, I'll get to your folks' comments there in just a short little bit there. Where we at? 1 hour and 31. I do want to get through. There's not too much patience, folks. Patience. I got a few more, and then, like I said, I'll read the questions and comments, and we'll go from there. So let me get to this next one. Oh wait, I never closed that one up. Let me bring this one here. Okay. So this one here, new book debunks Winnipeg lab conspiracy theory, but questions collaboration with Chinese military scientists. So debunks, right? Is it really bad? Anyways, but like I say, it doesn't matter if the information lines up with my thoughts or goes against it. It's information. And what I've realized, not just for myself, but the best thing to properly educate and inform people is give people information, whether you want to agree with it or you disagree with it. The more information that you learn and you digest, the more informed I firmly believe that you get. So just going to cover this anyways. New book. Okay, so yeah. Journalist Elaine Dewar found 2019 virus shipment from National Microbiology Lab had no link to coronavirus. All right. Well, that was easy. No investigation needed. Just someone write a book, and I guess we can move on. Right? Right? What do you waste your time there, cops? You just have to read this book, right? Anyways, maybe they did. Maybe that's why it's all swept under the rug now. I don't know. Anyways, so this was posted August 31st, 2021, and updated on September the 2nd. Just take a little drink here, folks. A new book concludes cooperation between Canada's National Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg and China's Wuhan Institute of Virology played no part in the origins of the coronavirus pandemic, but raises questions about links between one of the researchers fired from the lab and a prominent Chinese virologist affiliated with the military. Toronto-based freelance journalist Elaine Dewar says she set out to investigate the hypothesis that the coronavirus was leaked from the Wuhan lab by looking at the science and financial and geopolitical interests related to this theory. As part of that, she looked into whether an approved shipment of Ebola and Hennepin virus in March 2019 from the Winnipeg lab to Wuhan had anything to do with the pandemic after conspiracy theories suggested it did service online. So once again, let me just put this out there. Who's to suggest that one of the policy breach or administrative whatever, right, errors or whatever, what if there was something other than those two particular viruses, Ebola and Hennepin? Maybe there was something that was shipped that maybe was redacted or omitted from that, right? Because there's always that potential. Because that's the thing. If you were trying to, do gain of function research on other materials or other viruses, right? Maybe you wouldn't keep that on the up and up. Maybe that's something you might be more secretive with. Like I say, if there's connection with the Chinese military, and here's the other thing too. This is just me thinking about it loud. Coronavirus. Once again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist and I've never played one on TV. Well, that was a bit odd, but I'm back. Anyways, that was so strange. I was in the middle of reading that and just boom, gone, done. Although we are having a pretty nasty storm over this way. So, I mean, there's always that potential too, right? Let me get back here, folks. Let me get back because, and like I say, bear with me. Shouldn't be too much longer. So anyways, like I was saying, let me get back to my train of thought there. So yeah, if you wanted to study a virus, right, and the one that has the biggest effect on us all, and you were doing gain of function research, and once again, it could even been an accident, an escape by accident. But yes, a coronavirus is something that may very well be something of high interest to be studied. And maybe part of that investigation is the fact that it was omitted or not included in there, but it was the potential that maybe a coronavirus was shipped there as well. But once again, we're all speculating, and there's no way that this woman could possibly say with any definitive proof, right? Especially that much time has transpired before they even get into doing the whole investigation, like in terms of this woman at least, because this is, like I say, what, years after the fact, and now you're investigating all kinds of time to try to, cover things up if need be. And once again, I don't even know if that's the case, but I'm just saying there's no way anyone could offer any definitive or conclusive proof, especially just this one person, right? Come on. And what do you have to back that up? Because, what is it? Profound claims, or what is that, requires profound evidence, or extraordinary claims requires extraordinary evidence. And I'm not seeing the evidence as of yet. Okay, suggested. Months after the shipment in July 2019, NML scientists Zheng Qi and Kating Cheng were escorted from the Winnipeg lab and had their security clearances revoked. That's the other thing too. They weren't just taken out; they had their security clearance revoked, which means, you're not coming back in here, right? Kind of a big deal. Why would you do that, right? They were fired last January, and to date, the Public Health Agency of Canada, which runs Canada's only level 4 biosafety lab, has not explained why. So, I mean, come on. Devar did not find any connections between the 2019 shipment and the pandemic. CBC News has also debunked conspiracy theories making these connections. So once again, it seems the most important thing that they seem to be predisposed with these days, in particular the CBC and this journalist, is to just debunk it. And what evidence? What? How much of investigation do you think that possibly could have taken place? Did she travel to fucking China? Did she get clearance at that Wuhan Institute of Virology? Right? I mean, come on. Right? Come on. I mean, just the fact that she didn't find the connection, does it mean that there is no connection? I mean, that's the other fucking thing too, right? You go put a needle in a haystack. I could go out and look at it for an hour. If I don't find the needle, does it mean the fucking needle's not in the haystack? No. I just didn't fucking find it. Oh, like this shit annoys me when they play these stupid games like that. Really, it really is annoying. They say it seems like they've lost their inquisitiveness and their ambition to be genuine investigators. Well, of course, because it doesn't align with the kind of people that's in these institutions and the narrative and the fact that they were fucking proven wrong so many times. They just don't want to ever admit they've been wrong, which happens a lot, right? A lot. That particular conspiracy theory is nonsense. What a reaction. Like that's what you have to offer, right? With all that information and evidence and the RCMP investigation and shipments from China and Wuhan, the fact that Fauci talked about fucking, or Rand Paul had Fauci on the stand, he had to admit that there's actual gain of funds research that Americans fucking pay for, and their connection with the Wuhan lab in China, and then Canada's connection with our lab, and yeah, all that, and it could just be debunked, right? Conspiracy theorists, like, no, sorry. Fail. Duar found that Key worked closely with Wei Chen, a prominent Chinese virologist who holds the rank of Major General in the People's Liberation Army, and tested Chen's Ebola vaccine at the Winnipeg lab. I mean, just the sheer fact that you're talking about a connection to a Chinese virologist who holds the ranks of Major General in the People's Liberation Army, the fucking Chinese military, holy fuck, right? Holy fuck. I mean, this just causes more questions, right? This is the thing. You're not dissuading or persuading anyone that, oh, okay, well, it's all been explained now. Let's just move on. No, actually, it's causing me even more to question even more, right? There is no evidence that the work went beyond routine scientific collaboration, but Duar says the cooperation raises questions about the kind of collaborations the sensitive government labs should undertake. When you have civilian researchers studying Ebola, how it works, how people are infected by it, what might be done to protect them against infection, that's one thing. When you have military scientists involved, it becomes a larger question because it can be weaponized, Duar said during a recent interview at her Toronto home. Well, that's the other thing too. I mean, maybe some of these people at that lab were just being used as pawns, right? Maybe they were even unsuspecting of how they were contributing to the Chinese government or others who are doing this gain of function research, or the military, right? They could be even suspected. So once again, you don't even have to believe that these people had any nefarious intentions, right? They could have just been duped themselves, but to downplay it like this, like, come on, that's a big old fucking fail. Yeah, of course it could be weaponized. During a recent interview in her Toronto home. When you have a relationship with a country which is unfriendly, you have to ask the question, do you want leading Chinese experts having access to a lab which requires secret clearance in this country? I would say no. Duar also found that Key authored several scientific papers since she was fired from the lab. She says that suggests Key continued to have access to NML data, though PHAC says people who no longer work for the agency can still affiliate themselves with it in academic publications that reflect research done while they were there. One paper published in March 2020 and co-authored by Key, Chain, and virologists from NML and the military-affiliated Beijing Institute of Biotechnology drew on Ebola-related experiments performed while Key was at NML. Chen, who is listed as senior author along with Key, is considered a national hero for her work in Ebola vaccines. She and her research team at the Academy of Military Medical Sciences in Beijing are also leading China's coronavirus response. Right? That looks like another connection, right? When this paper was submitted in January 2020, Jinggu Qi and Keiding Cheng had been on suspension for 6 months. Did PHAC and the RCMP fail to notice that they continued to work with a leading military medical figure in China, even as the RCMP investigated them? Dwyer writes in her book, she maintains the loss of Key's security clearance should have meant she no longer had access to the NML's scientific works. So once again, folks, in a statement provided to CBC News, PHAC said security clearance is mandatory for anyone accessing government networks or data, but the access would not have been necessary to publish work based on past research done in the lab. So, well, there you go. Now, I'm just going to throw my glasses on here, folks. Okay. I'm going to get through this a little quicker here. All access is blocked if someone's security status clearance is suspended or revoked. It said the analysis and write-up phase of the scientific process can take months to years following the experimental work ending. Final review of completed manuscripts does not require access to the laboratory or network. While Dr. Key is no longer employed by the Public Health Agency of Canada, her scientific contributions while at PHAC remain. CBC News was not able to reach Key or Chen for comment. While CBC News and other media have reported on the scientific collaboration between Key and Chinese researchers, some of whom have military affiliations, Dwyer's book provides some historical context. China has large investments in regions of Africa impacted by Ebola, which is why it was looking for effective vaccines, treatments, and diagnostic tests. Well, that could be true. Right? That one does not negate the other. That's the fucking crazy part. They both could be true at the same time, right? However, Ebola research must be done in a level 4 lab. Well, of course, and China did not have one until 2018. A level 4 virology facility is equipped to handle the most serious and deadly human and animal diseases. The Winnipeg lab is one of only a handful in North America capable of handling pathogens required the highest level of containment, such as Ebola. CBC News previously broke the story that Key had traveled repeatedly to Wuhan in 2017-2018 to help set up the newly built level 4 lab there, develop safety and operation protocols, and train staff. Meanwhile, scientists from Canada's national lab were doing groundbreaking work on Ebola. In 2018, Key and her then boss, Gary Cobinger, won a Governor's General Innovation Award for the work on ZMAP, an Ebola treatment that helped save lives during the outbreaks in West Africa between 2014 and 2016. Dwyer found research involving Key and Chen going back to at least 2015 that shows Key tested Chen's Ebola vaccine at the Winnipeg lab. So, I mean, like I say, this long-standing relationship here. Meanwhile, the details of Key and Cheng's firing remain a mystery, right? For months, opposition MPs have been demanding PHAC turn over unredacted documents pertaining to the dismissal, which PHAC has said was related to a policy breach. And while the government recently dropped its attempt to block the release of documents, Dwyer is not confident we'll ever have all the answers. We have, instead of truth, a pile of cover-up going on, she said. Right? Yeah, big cover-up going on. They're going to pretend that, but it had no connection to coronavirus outbreak or anything like that, right? Well, obviously, you can't say that definitively. I mean, she's admitted it right there, right? PHAC did confirm the NML underwent a physical security vulnerability assessment in May 2019 as part of ongoing reviews. It said its screening and security procedures have not been updated independent of the Treasury Board Secretariat policy on government security. It is subject to. May 2019 is when PHAC referred this case to the Manitoba RCMP, which confirmed the investigation is still ongoing. So there you go, folks. Anyways, like I say, lots. I'll close this one up. Yes, and this one, actually, this is the one, like I say, I'll bring this one up. This was that, and it's a long article, so if it's the one, if I remember correctly, this is that McLean's article. Yeah, I believe this is the one. Let me just double check here. And I definitely recommend you read this, because if I remember correctly, there was a lot of information in this one. Let me just make sure. Yeah, I think this was it. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, this is the one. Yeah, you're definitely going to want to read this, because I believe this is even the article that had the fact that there was even mistakes made, right, in these laboratories, right? Like policy breaches and such, that were even some of these viruses or something that was sitting around on the floor in one of the labs, and the seal got broken or something. Like I say, there's all kinds of stuff in there that would lead any common sense, reasonable thinking person to think, yeah, there's very real potential for not just connections, but, implications, whether it's nefarious or just out of incompetence, right? Who's to say? The intentions, neither of us can say that we know that at this particular time, but it definitely deserves further inquiry and investigation and not to be played down in any way. And then what is it? Then there's this. I'm not even sure what this has to do with it, but I'm just, like I say, anything. I'm just bringing it all to the table. This one here is another story. This one was actually in March of 2023. So just March of last year, Manitoba investigator, National Microbiology Lab guard, charged in massive organized crime drug bust. So this is someone that's supposed to be a guard at the National Microbiology Lab, that level 4 lab that's supposed to be highly secure, right? Well, this guy that's the security guard, well, he was running a massive organized crime drug organization, right? So, or whatever, outfit. More than $2.5 million in drugs seized, along with 19 guns, vehicles, and prescription pills. So anyways, like I say, I won't read too much. Oh, here we go. Actually, let me read this a little bit. That's kind of funny. Investigator with a provincial unit has been swept up in an organized crime bust in Manitoba that resulted in more than 20 people being arrested. 20 people being arrested and multiple kilograms of drugs being seized. Donovan Sired, 50, is charged with bribery, breach of trust, and conspiracy. He's accused of leaking information to drug dealers about police enforcement plans. He was a member of the Special Investigation Unit for Manitoba Finance, which typically investigates cigarette smuggling. A source in the province's Justice Department said he's now on unpaid leave of absence. Project Dog Pound, as the investigation was named by police, started May 22 and grew in leaps and bounds, with its scope reaching across the country, said Inspector Graf Stephen, officer in charge of organized crime for Manitoba RSMP. Once we saw the totality of what we were looking at, we initiated a full-scale project with a primary target whom we aim to disrupt. So anyways, like I say, the fact that this had something to do with that laboratory, and the fact that he was a guard, kind of disturbing. Might be some interesting information. And then we got this. And I think we're getting close to being up here. Yeah, because this was, once again, May 17th, 2023. Yeah, there we go. Committee of MPs, former judges to examine firing of 2 National Microbiology Lab scientists. Dismissal of Dr. Jing Hu Qi and her husband, Kating Chang, from Winnipeg Lab, shrouded in mystery. So this was reported Richard Raycraft, May 17, 2023. Members from all official parties in the House of Commons and 3 former judges will sit on a new ad hoc committee to look into the controversial firing of 2 scientists from Canada's top virology lab in Winnipeg. Government House Leader Mark Holland announced the makeup of the committee Wednesday. 4 MPs will have access to briefings and other documents on the matter. Ikra Khalid from the Liberals, John Williamson from the Conservatives, Renee Villemure from the Bloc Québécois, and Heather McPherson from the NDP. All 4 have substitutes from their respective parties. 3 former senior judges will join them to act as arbiters and will have final say on what information can be made public. The judges are Ian Biddy, Eleanor Dawson, and Marshall Rothstein. Biddy and Rothstein are former Supreme Court of Canada judges. Where there is redacted information that the committee believes ought to be made public, the panel of arbiters will determine how that information could be disclosed more widely without compromising national security, national defense, or international relations, or any other public or private interest, a government news release said. The committee will examine, National told CBC News, the case raised concerns about Chinese espionage. So once again, espionage. That's been brought up multiple times. So talk about the fact of what they deal with. And that's about it. Well, so far. With files from the Canadian Press and CBC Karen Pauls. So basically, there was supposed to be some investigation. And once again, this was back in May 17th, 2023. And if anyone can find any information, by all means, let me know. But I've been looking and not seeing anything new. Not seeing anything new as of yet. Now, I'll bring this one up because this is a national post. I believe it's basically the same thing. Years after scientists fired from Winnipeg Infectious Disease Lab, RCMP still investigating. So this was in March of 2023. Some have questioned whether the RCMP is up to the task or the government is committed to seeing through the potentially embarrassing case. So anyways, it says they're still investigating. An RCMP spokeswoman said the investigation, with its overtones of possible snooping by China, is still ongoing, and that police would have no comment on it. Such cases cannot always be wrapped up quickly, said Corporal Kim Chamberlain. Anyways, folks, so like I say, still ongoing, and all of these, like I say, will be linked in the description below. And then the last one, and then I'm going to tie this bad boy up for those who may want to use True North as a source to reference any of this stuff or to read. This one was from True North. This is the most recent thing, right? And that I could find anyways. No answers yet about Winnipeg virus lab and firing of China-linked scientists. This was by Cosmin de Souza, November 22nd, 2023. So we're only talking like, what, a month and a half ago that this was reported on. So at bare minimum, at the very least, as of November 22nd of 2023, a month and a half ago, still no answers as to what the hell took place and what further information could we learn about whatever the hell has taken place, right? And what connections, what further connections may very well be revealed or provided. Anyway, so basically it's just saying there that often complex, multi-jurisdictional. I mean, sure, it's going to take some time. I have no doubt. One of the most alarming aspects of the case was the revelation that Key had sent 24 vials of Ebola virus and 6 vials of Hepavirus, both deadly pathogens, to the Wuhan lab in March 2019. Key had also collaborated with Chi Wei, a major general. So this is all information, like I say, that we've already been privy to based on the past articles. And yeah, that covers it up. That ties it up just nicely with a bow, right? Actually, no, I don't have the bow. But anyway, so I'm just going to get into a few of the chats here, and then we'll tie this bad boy up, and I'll get out and see how the old snow is going, and see how the young lad's making out a snowmobile. This is the first time actually that he's ridden lots of machines, wheelers, bikes, stuff like that. He's got his nice Trans Am, but this is his first year buying a sled, and it's not a new one by any stretch. It's the old big twin ZR900, the Arctic Cat, but them bad boys, yeah, they work good, and I'm sure he's just smiling from ear to ear. No doubt. But anyways, like I said, I'm just going to read a little bit here. Oh, yeah, right. I like the stream. Don't forget to like the stream, everyone. Oh, thanks, Aaron. Thanks, man. You rock. Good advice. Thanks. People were physically attacked for no mask in Canada. Haha. I never thought I'd see that happen in my entire life. I hear you, Corey. And it wasn't just the no mask. Like I say, even just trying to get a coffee. It's a construction guy when we were shouldering the road over in Chipman, right? It was just freshly paved, and we were shouldering the road, and you couldn't even get a coffee at a place called Robin's Donuts. Yeah, I'll label it my name. And it was 2 days before this whole fucking, you had to have a passport to go into any place, right? A passport to say that you were vaxxed to the max for anything just as simple as even getting a fucking coffee. And yeah, this lady, it was on a Monday that the actual policy wasn't supposed to start till Wednesday. So I thought, oh, I'm good. We still have 2 days. Nope, couldn't get a coffee because the boss said, nope, we're going to start it early. We're going to start. So, I mean, yeah, all the shit, like I said, and that's just one small anecdotal experience or example that I personally undertook. And the fact that my wife was forced to wear a fucking mask for fucking month after month after month after, don't even get me started. And that's, like I say, that's just low level stuff in comparison and contrast to the outstretched ramification and consequences that it had on so many, not just Canadians, but, like I say, billions of people around the world. This story, it's just so important that people really, learn more about this and delve into it. Hopefully this live stream will inspire, even if it's just one great mind or investigator or someone, or maybe even Karen Pauls to get out there and do some more investigating. Somebody, just let's try to get to the bottom of this. Wasn't there a doctor or something at the same time in San Fran or Cal University, or it could have been lab, that the U.S. government was accusing also of a Chinese spy? Well, I'm not quite sure of that one, Liquid Gal. You may very well be right, actually, because that's the thing. I'm not privy to all information, and I typically, because I am Canadian, and I do try to stay on top of what's happening down south, with my American counterparts and friends down there. But as a Canadian, I was predominantly hyper-focused on my own particular backyard, my own particular jurisdiction, this country, right? So you might be right about that. I might be something I might want to look into myself. So thanks for letting us know about that. And maybe someone else could add information. Funny, if you look up Timmy Tam's life, it doesn't say that she actually did any hands-on work. All book work, no info on any work that he got any acclamation or a trophy, etc. Kind of weird. Well, that's interesting as well. And thanks for bringing up that information as well. You aren't coming in? Oh no. Am I not getting, or was that maybe after the little disruption? Boy, I hope I'm still coming in there now. Is anybody still in the stream that can let me know? Thank you for the work you do. Oh, my pleasure, Liquid Gal. Like I say, I just try to do my thing. Just one person. But like I say, I've always known, and I see it every day. People throw up their hands in the air and they say, they give up. They say, "Is it working good?" Oh, earlier. Okay, thanks, Liquid Gal. But people throw up their hands, and I hear them saying all the time, it's like, "Well, what can I do? I'm just one person." And the most prominent example I like to use these days, well, Elon Musk is one person too, and look at what the man has done. Now, of course, he's got a tremendous amount of resources at his disposal in comparison to you or I would, that's for sure. But I mean, there's countless examples that I could point to where just one person. Well, I'll just even use myself for an example. When I was looking out there, and even I'm not going to drop any names, not hating on nobody, but I remember very early on, and like I say, it's all backed up on all my live streams and videos. I was one of the very first people questioning the narrative when most people, and I kind of understand why most people were at the time, just like, especially, first couple of weeks, like just flatten the curve and everyone kind of was going along. But then after a month, like I said, even then, it didn't take me long just to read some of the information in some of the established media articles at the time. It's like, wait a minute, none of this stuff is lining up. There was a misrepresentation of facts. So the minute somebody's offering up a narrative where you're misrepresenting facts or reality, then it causes me of great concern. And then I wanted to delve into it even further. And that was the basis. That was the precipice that put me in the position where I, just a lowly nobody in Canada, New Brunswicker, truck driver, right? I was, I guess, a leader in Canada in terms of being one of the first people in this country to challenge the dominant narrative of the time. And I've been doing it ever since. Now, I'm very happy and fortunate there are quite a few more people, even ones that were opposing me and pushing back to some of the things I was questioning at the time, have come along and come around now that are right there with me. And like I say, I'm not doing that just to pat myself on the back and say, oh, I'm superior in any way. I just think I'm a fairly astute observer, and maybe most people just aren't quite as observant as I am. But if they were, I'm sure they could attain or reach the same conclusions that I did at the time. So once again, not to batter anyone else or to prop myself up, but like I say, it's just something that I did do, and I'm kind of thankful for it, because it's really profoundly important for people like myself or anyone out there to not just blindly go along with the things that are constantly jammed in their head by people in the media, or especially the politicians or the ruling class. Bare minimum, folks, just challenge and question these things. If for no other reason other than to hold them to a high standard, right? Bare minimum for that at the very least. But anyways, thanks for all you folks that did join the live stream. Really appreciate the comments and the questions and the input that you provide. That's another great thing. Like I say, it's not just me. I rely on you folks to help bring information to light too. And I really appreciate any information that you folks can bring to light, and anything you can do to help learn more about this crazy, profound, and mysterious story that, it's still not Still not forgotten, not yet, and won't be anytime soon, not by the likes of me and folks like yourself. So have yourself a great day. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.